Hi, and welcome to the Copycat Stitch podcast. I'm Bailey. I do a lot of knitting, I do a lot of other fiber arts, and I talk about it all here on my channel and on Instagram at the Copycat Stitch. Today I have a handful of stuff to talk about, but I am going out of town for about a week for work, and if I wait to film, I think I'll have too much. So I thought I would just do it today. It feels terrible to sit inside on such a gorgeous, sunny, summery day. It is April 15th, but the past few days here in upstate New York have been gorgeous, mid-80s summer weather, and I love it so much. I've been sitting outside and knitting a lot. And I have some stuff to show for it. So let's start with finished objects. This one, I don't even think was a whip last time I did a podcast. I think it's been maybe 4 weeks since I did a podcast, and I started and finished this one since then. It is a very bulky weight yarn, so it's not that surprising that it went really quickly. This was a free pattern that I found online, and I wanted to use the Noro Tsuido. Tsuido? I don't know how to say that. It's the Japanese word for tweed. It looks like Tsuido, but it sounds weird when I say it out loud. And I did pair it with some Katia mohair that I had. I got both of them at a sale at my local yarn store. I didn't intend to use them together, but it just kind of worked out that way. The Noro on its own was a lighter gray, and then the mohair was a little bit darker. And I didn't necessarily want to darken it up by using a different shade of mohair, but I just had the right quantities. I do have lighter shades of gray mohair, but I get weird guilt about using half of a quantity of mohair when I know I could use it for something larger. That's weird. I shouldn't guilt myself about my own stash and the way that I use it, but in my brain, I don't want to split up a quantity unless it's like the perfect thing, and in this case, I didn't think it was perfect. And I mostly just wanted to add mohair to bump it up a yarn weight size to make a sweater faster, because like I was talking about last time, weather was still very cold. I was still feeling like I could crank out another couple cold weather sweaters before the warm weather hit. I had no idea it was going to hit so fast and so gorgeously. So, I mean, I did get a little bit done, as you can see. And these are also buttons that I had in stash. It came out really, really nice, really drapey, not that woolly, stiff, scratchy. When I was knitting with the Noro yarn, the Tsuido yarn, I hated it. I don't want to be negative about it, but it's much, much more rustic than I would normally choose to knit with. There was a lot of vegetable matter in it that I was picking out as I went. It's very thick and thin, and it's very rough. Not my favorite to work with. The process was not in it for me on this one. But after I blocked it, it doesn't feel like that at all anymore. It just feels like a normal wool sweater. It feels very comfy. I've worn it several times. It's nice to use buttoned up like a sweater or just to chuck on like a cardigan. I'm really, really enjoying this one. I'm glad I made it. In this case, definitely more of a product knit, but I'm glad I did, because now I'm out of cold weather mode and I'm totally in warm weather mode. If you watched my recent video about planning my spring knits, you'll know about all the plans that I have coming up, and I'm really starting to get into it. I've cast on one of them, I think only one, but I'm gonna get into it. I'm really enjoying it. The weather definitely has changed my mood insofar as my knitting. My other finished object I just bound off this morning, so this has not been blocked yet. But this one I've been working on for a minute. I've shown you in the past. When I went on my road trip, this is one of the projects I took with and I barely worked on. It's a little snug right now, but I think it'll block out well enough. And I think it's so pretty. This is an undyed tweed fingering weight that I got from the wool room at Longmeadow Farm at a yarn show recently. And this was a fingering weight knit, and honestly, it was on slightly larger needles, so I say it's a fingering weight knit, but it didn't take as long as a fingering weight sweater has taken me in the past, because the stitches are a little gappy. It's a bit see-through. I don't know if that'll change if it blooms, but I don't know how well you can see it's a little see-through, but not in a bad way. I think it's a really, really nice, neutral, like everyday kind of sweater. It's a great basic to have. Like, I've been talking nonstop about making basics, but I'm like actually getting around to making some, right? It's got twisted rib on the hem and on the sleeve cuffs, and the collar. I just think it's so cute, and getting a lot of gratification about making like a simple but well-made garment. Like, I kind of moved past the part where knitting for me is about choosing the flashy yarn, and I'm moving into a phase where I'm appreciating the skills that I've developed and loving that I can make something so well executed like this. I'm really enjoying that. Like I said, I just bound off this morning, so I haven't worn it yet, but I'm going to block it soon. Maybe I'll be able to wear it away on my work trip. That would be nice. Yeah, I'll probably block it this afternoon. I have one more. It's not finished. I'm not going to lie. But it's 99%. And it's been 99% on my Ravelry page for like a week and a half. So this was for my husband's birthday, which was 2 weeks ago. I did not finish in time for his birthday. But I kind of made the conscious decision to stop trying the day before, because this project was fingering weight yarn in linen stitch on very small needles to create a super tight fabric, and it was honestly not worth risking repetitive motion injury. I would work on it for a stretch of time and start to feel my hands tensing up and not coping well with this project, so I just would make the decision to back off it. The day before, I was pretty close to finishing and thinking, you know, if I really push myself, I might be able to finish it, but I don't think it's worth potentially impacting my ability to knit in the future. So I rolled back, and I finished knitting it the day after his birthday. I showed it to him on his birthday. He doesn't wear neckties very often, like I mentioned previously, so I didn't super feel guilty about not finishing it on the day of his birthday. He did tell me he wants to wear it next week for a work event while I'm away, so I do have to finish this probably today, maybe tomorrow. It just needs seaming. It's bound off. You can see I started to seam up the back here, but this tie, the Nuffield tie, is knit doubly wide, and then you fold in the corners and seam it up the center back. So I'm in the very arduous process of very slowly doing a mattress stitch up the back of this in the fingering weight yarn. So like I said, at 99%, it just needs the other 80% of the seam to be finished and to be blocked, and that's something I'll have to do this afternoon so that my husband can have it next week, and I'll be happy to be done with it. But in my brain, it's kind of a finished object. It's mostly done. It just needs a little finishing work. Okay, so I have some new whips. I still have a bunch of old whips, but I'll talk about them at the end of the video. Right now, I have 3 new whips to talk about. So I had mentioned when I got this yarn that I was planning on making this pattern with it. This book from Lisa Sartori, Crochet Wizardry, is like the official Harry Potter crochet patterns book, has this pretty pattern for Hermione's Room of Requirement sweater. And I didn't intend to make this, but I bought 5 hanks of fingering weight white tweed from Witchfire Fibers when she released, I don't even know, I think this was the winter shop update, I don't remember, but they're gorgeous colors. I've seen them everywhere online, and I had bought, there goes my crochet hook, I bought 3 skeins of this kind of middle gray color. Oh, I don't remember what it's called, forgive me. 1 skein of this rose color and 1 of Verdant, which is the darker one, intending to do some sort of color work. And I kind of thought, I don't know if I want to do a fingering weight knit color work. I've done a lot of color work crochet in the past, but never fingering weight. And on a whim, I was searching on Ravelry for patterns that use the yarn that I already had, just like the process that I talked about in my spring knits video. And when I typed in, you know, I want a crochet colorwork sweater for fingering weight yarn that's already in my library that only uses 3 colors, and I submitted that, 1 pattern came up, and it was this one, and I think it's perfect, and I really love it, and I love how it's coming out so far. I started off at a run on this one. It, like, I don't know if you can appreciate how teensy tiny these stitches are in this yarn, but I couldn't stop. Like, I started going on this, and I was just working on crochet only for like 4 or 5 days. I did kind of slow down when the weather warmed up a little more, and my attention went to other knits, but I'm definitely going to continue working on this in the near future. It is very enjoyable for me. I'm hoping that the 2 greens are showing up well on camera. In person, there's enough contrast, and it is a really pretty motif. The pink is a lot more contrast, and I don't know if I chose my colors perfectly for this project, but I do love how it's coming out nonetheless. And I'm really, really enjoying working on this, and I think that it's pretty tight right now, but once I block it, I think this is going to be a really amazing sweater that I won't be able to wear for like 5 or 6 months after I finish it. But that's okay. I like it. One that I will be able to wear shortly after I finish it was one of the things, one of the patterns that I talked about in my spring knits planning video. This was on my list, and I chose to cast this one on first. Like I was talking about in that video, I don't use the queue on Ravelry as like a hard and fast like priority list. I kind of have it sorted in chunks. I wanted to start a new project one day last week because I was really struggling with the fact that like every whip I had going was very fine yarn. Like I have the sweater I just showed you. I had the finished object that I just showed you that were both fingering weight. I have, it's kind of somewhere in between because it's like a lace weight mohair, the fuzzy sweater that I'm turning into, or the fuzzy vest that I'm turning into a sweater. It's a really lightweight. I have that anniversary Tunisian temperature blanket that I'm wearing. Like everything in my whip basket was fingering weight or lighter, and I was not feeling it. I just needed something a little thicker. So I went to my queue, and actually not very many of the things that I've queued up to make this spring are a thicker yarn. They're mostly quite thin as well, but this is one that was a little thicker. This is the Amedeo cardigan, and I'm making it out of wool, oh my gosh, Lion brand Cotton Ease. Wool isn't even in the name of that yarn. So this is the back panel. It's this really pretty, it looks, oh my gosh, now that I'm holding it up, it looks off-center, but I think it's just the way that the stitches lean because the V pattern is centered. It looks absolutely asymmetrical now that I hold it up, and I hope I didn't screw it up. But I think it's just because knit 2 togethers lean a little differently than left-leaning decreases. I'm going to tell myself that. I think when I block it, it'll even out. Oh my god. Ugh. Anyway, this is the back panel. It scrunches up a lot, but when you stretch it, you can see how many eyelets there are, and the pattern really opens up a lot, so I think blocking it will do wonders for this. The stitch definition on this yarn is really crisp. I'm very much enjoying that aspect of it, and it's super lightweight. The stitch pattern itself with all those eyelets is very breezy. I think it's going to be really nice to have in spring and summer. And this is one of the sides. It's a V-neck, so you can kind of see it start to taper here. I think around here is when the V-neck decreases start. So this is one side. It looks super long. Like I didn't realize it was going to be quite so long. But also, it'll probably shrink up a bit when I, block it to stretch it horizontally. I think it vertically might shrink a little. But, yeah. I did pick out some vintage buttons from my stash. I don't know how well these will show up. Just a little card of 4 little teeny vintage white buttons. They do have a texture on them. They're like a sort of concentric circles. Might be spiral. I like it. I think it's cute. It's been fun to work on. Definitely a nice break for my hands. From all of these super fine yarn projects, it's nice to have this nice, like, hefty worsted weight to, give my hands a break. And the one more whip that I have that I haven't shown you before is my Sweetheart Bomber that I started at a Syracuse Mets game recently. If you've been on my channel for a minute, you know that this is the bag that I take to baseball games when I bring my knitting, because clear bags are always so much more easy to go through like stadium security with at any sporting event. I'm planning to make a Sweetheart Bomber in like Met's colors and only knit it at ball games. So I got started on that. I'm absolutely going to make a video just about that, so I'm not going to talk about it in super detail, but it was difficult because when we went to the first game, it wasn't the first game of the season, but it was the first game of the season that my husband and I went to. It was pretty chilly, and I was casting on what is actually a pretty complex project that I chose to actually cast on and start at the game, and I don't know that that was my best decision because as you can see, there's contrasting colors, there's these saddle shoulders, so you have to knit each trapezoid for the saddle shoulders first and then pick up stitches along the side, and I don't think I have ever had such a difficult time in my life picking up stitches as I did that night when it was so cold and I've just got this cotton fingering weight yarn that was like slipping through my fingers. It probably took me like an inning and a half just to pick up stitches along the one trapezoid. It was not good. But I got through it. Now I'm at a point where I can just like knit for a while. The garment overall is a lot of mindless knitting because I said fingering, I think it's sport weight. But it is a very fine yarn. It is a lot of stockinette or reverse stockinette, which it's knit flat for the body, so it doesn't matter. It's the same as stockinette. It's just the other way around. And then I'm sure the sleeves are worked in the round, but it's Poison Girls pattern, which I love. I've done their patterns before, but they're very well thought out and very complex, and I don't know that was the best idea. But like, look at it. It's so on theme for like a baseball themed jacket, right? I love it. I don't know if I need a Mets jacket. It's the theme. I run with a theme. So I'm going to enjoy working on it, and I'm going to enjoy wearing it to Syracuse Mets games in the future. Alright, and then I have a few acquisitions. Just my little acquisitions basket. Some of these are not particularly notable, but I found them at thrift stores in recent weeks. So this one, it's just Lion Brand Homespun. There are some greens and blues and purples in there, but it's mostly like an off-white color. The colorway is called Tudor. I have like this kind of growing collection of homespun that I have found at thrift stores. I have like a very sizable selection at this point, and I just keep picking it up because I keep thinking at some point I'm going to have enough to like make a whole Afghan out of it or something. And it's always so cheap. Like, it's like 99 cents. So it did it. Similarly, I was at a different thrift store the week before. I found 2 skeins of Lion Brand jeans in the color Vintage, which is like just a gray denim kind of tone. And I know I already have some of this, so I'm just supplementing what I have. And I like working with Lion Brand jeans. I have before, and I enjoy it. And at the same time, somebody had donated probably a whole bag full of yarn. Maybe not a whole stash, or maybe it was, but people took all the best stuff before I got there. But there was maybe like 20 hanks of yarn, or skeins. They're mostly bullet skeins. I also picked up 2 of this Wool of the Andes worsted in Nightshade Heather. Again, they had a lot. It was a lot of acrylic and a lot of stuff that I don't normally choose to work with, but these 2 are yarns that I've worked with before and that I know I like. So for 99 cents a piece, I just picked them up. Here's the other 2. Oh, that's funny. Tenderhearted. These are the other 2 skeins for my Hermione sweater, and that's Tenderhearted is the colorway that I couldn't remember. And then my Paleobotany Club, which is the yarn subscription from Yarnaceous Fibers that I do, sends 1 hank of fingering every month, and every month it is a colorway named after what I assume to be an historical plant that no longer exists, hence paleobotany, and I can never, ever pronounce them. This one looks like Marchantii. I'm not going to try that again. It's very pretty. It's like lilacs and pinks and every shade in between, and there's like a little bit of like peachy, orangey, yellow. This is a good one. I might try to, I don't know, every time I have a single skein of fingering, I think I'm going to make some sort of tank top out of it or something, and then I never really get around to it, but I will cherish it nonetheless. And then the last thing in here, this is so silly, but I went to Joann for other things, and I found this fabric, which just made me laugh. I will get some B-roll of it up close so that you can see it better, but it's just like a comic strip, and all of the women in every frame of the comic strip are just very sad or exasperated because they're sewing, and, you know, that's the relationship I have with sewing, is certainly a tenuous one, and it was just so well represented here, and it made me laugh. So I got a yard of it, I think, or half a yard even. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, maybe a tote bag or something, but truly, I thought it was very funny, and I couldn't just leave it there. Alright, so that really was quick. I feel like I did actually talk through everything relatively swiftly today. So, I'm working on a few videos. I have a couple in progress, and they're bigger projects, so I haven't been putting out as many recently. One of them that I've been working on is the big one, which was one of my knit year's resolutions, the project journal. And like, I did go through and kind of sort out all the swatches and yarn ball bands and photos and all the little things that I have to try to take an inventory and fill in the gaps where I need to. So I did spend a couple days like filming that video about sorting it and knitting through all the swatches that I still have the yarn for but never made a sample for the book. And then the next step is to take pictures. I have an instant camera. It's not like an Instax, I don't know what that brand is called. It's from Kodak, but I chose this one because the picture is a little bit larger. There's no like frame around it, and it prints on sticker paper. So I think that's really handy. And the one weekend that I really got started and I did all of the filming and I made all the extra swatches and I did so much organization and really got some momentum going on this project, I enlisted my husband to help me take more pictures. And we did. The thing about that camera is you really, really need natural light. If you take pictures indoors, it comes out very washed out and orange. If you use the flash, it's the same thing. It's kind of hit or miss, super washed out, not very helpful for demonstrating. And I mean, I'm not trying to get like perfect, crystal clear, gorgeous photos. It's a project journal. It's just a little reminder. It's aesthetic, you know, but they're really not usable when you. All right, sorry for the continuity interruptions. Apparently it's hotter in here than it feels to me, and the camera has now twice overheated and shut off. And the first time I didn't realize it shut off because it overheated, so I just immediately tried again and probably made it worse. So anyway, it initially cut me off when I was talking about the instant photos, and basically the point I was trying to make is that they need to be taken, the photos need to be taken outdoors in natural light. Somebody has to be here with me to take them, and we have to have good weather. So it has just not been lining up when my husband is home at the same time as me, and it's daylight, and the weather's good enough to do it. The first day we did it, it was freezing, and we were running in and out trying to get photos of sweaters really fast, and then we ran out of photo paper. We had to wait for more photo paper to come. We tried another time, but the battery died on the camera like immediately after we started, so we only got like 2 pictures. So the project is starting to feel a little bit cursed, but I'm rolling with it. I think I'm going to push through it, eventually get all the photos, and actually get down to like making the content that I've been working so hard to try to get this video. I have other videos in the works. I'm going to go to some fiber festivals this summer, try to make videos about that. I'm working on one about the Sweetheart bomber jacket that I'm making. And also, like I said, I'm going on a work trip this coming week for 5 days, which means 4 nights by myself in a hotel. Work is only during the day, so I basically have evenings all to myself. Instead of doing what I normally do and casting on a travel whip and starting something new, I am going to force myself to take several of my long-standing whips, borderline unfinished objects, with me to try to wrap up. So I'm going to take 4. One of them is the Amedeo cardigan that I've been actively working on, but 3 have been floundering in my whip pile for a long time. I'm hoping I can wrap some of those up and kind of like tie up some loose ends so I can more happily start my spring knitting, less distracted by older projects. Yeah, so bear with me. I'm trying to get more content out, but all the stuff I've been working on has had a lot of hiccups and unforeseen stuff, so I'm having a harder time getting it out as quickly as I want to, but a lot of it's in the works. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. I'm so pleased that you chose to spend time with me again today. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I love watching my channel grow, and it really helps me to be able to share my knitting and my fiber arts and everything with everyone, which is really, really fun for me, and I hope it's fun for some of you as well. So, as always, let me know what you're working on in the comments. I love to hear about everybody's different projects, especially with changing seasons, whatever they're changing to, wherever you are in the world. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!